Ethan leaned against the railing of the Galactic adoption shelter, gazing down at the bustling hall below. The shelter was filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Some had long, thin limbs that twisted and turned like living ropes. Others had shining scales, feathery wings, or eyes that glowed softly in dim light. It was a beautiful sight, yet a quiet sadness lingered in the air. Many of these beings had lost their homes, their families, or even their worlds. Ethan had been here, many times before, helping find homes for orphans and abandoned aliens, but today felt different. He wasn't here to help others. He was here to find someone for himself. Not a pet, not a companion for fun. He wanted a being he could care for, teach, and grow with. He wanted someone who needed love as much as he wanted to give it. He walked down the wide hall, past cages and enclosures, each filled with hopeful eyes. Some creatures chirped or hummed softly. Others curled into corners, shy and afraid. Volunteers bustled about, feeding, cleaning, and comforting. The scent of different worlds mixed: sweet flowers, salty seas, earthy soil, even faint ozone from some electric-skinned species. Then, in the very back corner of the shelter, he saw her. She was small, almost no bigger than a human child, with soft blue skin that shimmered faintly under the shelter lights. Her eyes were enormous and dark, glimmering like twin pools of starlight, but they carried a weight no child should bear. She sat on a soft mat, her knees drawn to her chest, rocking slightly, humming a quiet, sorrowful tune. Around her, other visitors walked by, uninterested. Some even whispered and pointed, saying she looked strange or difficult. Ethan felt a tug in his chest. Every time someone ignored her, his heart ached. "She's the one," he whispered to himself. Volunteer approached him, a tall alien with 3 arms and golden skin. "Ah, you've noticed her," the volunteer said. "Lyra, she's quiet, very quiet, doesn't interact much with others. Most people pass her by. They think she's sad all the time. But she's very intelligent, very sensitive. Be careful. She needs someone patient." Ethan nodded. "I want her. I'll take her home." The volunteer raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Really? You're sure? She's not easy?" "I'm sure," Ethan said firmly, smiling gently. "I don't want easy, I want her." Paperwork was done, and soon Ethan found himself walking out of the shelter holding a small hand in his own. Lyra's fingers were delicate, almost translucent, and cold to the touch. She didn't speak a word, didn't look up, but her small hand gripped his tightly. Ethan thought he felt a spark, maybe a flicker of trust hiding beneath her sadness. The walk to his ship was quiet. Lyra's eyes followed every movement, taking in the city around them. Hover cars glided by. People of all species chatted and laughed, neon signs glowed, and robotic helpers zipped along. For a moment, Ethan wondered what she thought of all this. Was it frightening? Or just confusing? Once aboard the ship, Ethan led her to a room filled with soft furniture, books, toys, and alien-friendly gadgets. He had prepared it for her. A rival, though he didn't know what she liked or needed. Lyra stepped inside slowly, her glowing eyes scanning every corner. She moved cautiously, as if afraid she might break something or be broken herself. Ethan knelt down to her level. "This is your room," he said softly. "You can explore. You can touch. You can do anything you want." Lyra's lips moved, slightly, forming a sound that was almost a whisper. Ethan tilted his head, listening. It was musical, soft, like a tiny song of sadness. He smiled. "I'll learn your language, I promise. But for now, you don't need words. Just be here." Days passed, and the small blue girl slowly began to explore her new home. She hummed to herself in corners, traced patterns on the walls with her fingers, and watched Ethan as he worked or read. She never spoke, but sometimes her skin would shimmer faintly, changing colors depending on her mood. Bright blues when she was curious, pale whites when she was scared. soft purples when she was calm. Ethan spent hours observing her, trying to understand her rhythms, her expressions, her way of being. He realized that every little action she made was meaningful. The tilt of her head, the curve of her fingers, the way she hummed. Everything was communication if you knew how to read it. One morning, Ethan decided to try something different. He placed a small holographic projector on the floor, showing images of forests, rivers, and alien planets. Lyra's eyes lit up. She stepped closer, reaching out, her fingers brushing the images, her hum changing to a higher, lighter tone. She looked at Ethan, and for the first time he saw a tiny smile tug at her lips. Encouraged, Ethan brought out more toys, musical instruments, and books. He tried talking to her gently every day, telling her about his life, his travels, the stars he had seen. Lyra listened, sometimes mimicking his words in soft hums, other times responding with color patterns that shifted and danced on her skin. It was slow, painstaking work, but every small connection was a victory. Ethan discovered that Lyra had an incredible memory. She could recall every detail of the images he showed her, every word he said. She loved patterns, repetition, and stories about adventure. Yet beneath her intelligence was a sadness that seemed almost too heavy for her small body. He could sense that she had been hurt before, lost family, lost friends, lost worlds. And though she was in a safe place now, that sorrow remained, hidden in the depths of her eyes. One evening, Ethan sat beside her as she hummed quietly. He placed a hand on hers, warm and steady. "You're safe now, Lyra," he whispered. "No one can hurt you here. Not ever. I promise." For the first time, she leaned slightly against him. Her hum softened, almost like a sigh. It was small, almost imperceptible, but Ethan felt it deep in his heart. That moment, brief as it was, told him that she was beginning to trust him, that maybe, just maybe, they could heal each other. The days turned into weeks. Ethan and Lyra developed routines. They ate meals together, read stories, listened to music, and watched the stars from the ship's observation deck. Lyra began to speak small words, mostly names of objects and colors, though sometimes she surprised him with full sentences. Every time she spoke, her voice was soft but clear, like a delicate chime. Neighbors and friends began to notice the little girl with the shimmering blue skin. Some came to see her, curious about her mysterious aura. Lyra was shy at first, retreating into Ethan's side, but gradually, she began to respond to them in her own way, through hums, gestures, and gentle smiles. Ethan realized that Lyra was extraordinary, not just because of her alien abilities or intelligence, but because of her heart. She had suffered, yet she still cared. She had been abandoned, yet she still trusted. And he, too, felt something grow within him. A deep, protective love. A desire to help her shine, to bring joy back into her life. One night, as they sat on the observation deck watching a cluster of stars, Lyra finally spoke a full sentence. "I like here," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "I like you." Ethan smiled, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. "I like you too, Lyra," he said, his voice firm and gentle. "I like you more than anything." She leaned her small head against his shoulder, and for the first time she didn't hum a sad tune. She simply rested, peaceful, safe, and beginning to heal. Ethan knew this was only the start of their journey. There were mysteries to uncover, talents to explore, and a bond to strengthen. But for the first time, both of them felt hope. In a universe so vast and unpredictable, they had found each other, and that, Ethan knew, was something extraordinary. Life in Ethan's ship settled into a gentle rhythm. The hum of engines, the soft flicker of lights, and the quiet shuffle of Lyra's tiny feet became familiar sounds, almost comforting. Ethan watched her every day, noticing the small details. The way her eyes brightened when sunlight from the observation deck fell across the floor, the way she tapped her fingers against walls to make patterns, and the way she hummed soft tunes that seemed to shift with her moods. Lyra's language was not like any human language Ethan had known. Her words were almost non-existent, replaced instead by hums, gestures, and subtle color changes in her skin. Sometimes she would flash soft blues and purples when curious, bright greens when excited, and pale whites when anxious. Ethan realized quickly that if he wanted to connect with her, he needed to learn to read her body, her hums, and the colors she produced. At first, communication was slow and frustrating. Ethan would ask, "Do you want water?" And Lyra would look at him silently, sometimes glowing pale white. He tried again, "Do you want to eat?" And she would flick her fingers, making small arcs of light in the air. He had no idea what it meant. He could not rely on words, so he had to rely on observation. He started simple, small games. He would place colored shapes on the floor and watch her reaction. If she pointed or glowed a certain color, he would mimic her gestures. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Ethan noticed that when she leaned toward a blue shape, her hum rose slightly in tone. When she avoided a red shape, her hum became lower and softer. It was as if she was teaching him her language, one color and sound at a time. "Okay, Lyra," Ethan said one evening, sitting on the floor beside her. "Let's try something new. This is called a story." He held up a small hollow book, its images glowing gently. "See this? This is a forest. These are trees. Can you point to the trees?" Lyra tilted her head, her large eyes scanning the images. She raised one delicate hand, and a small flash of soft blue light pulsed from her fingertips as she touched the correct tree image. Ethan clapped quietly, careful not to startle her. "Good, you got it. That's amazing, Lyra." Her skin shimmered in a rainbow of soft colors, almost like a laugh without sound. Ethan felt a smile stretch across his face. He realized this was progress. She was learning and teaching him at the same time. Days turned into weeks, and their small games became lessons. Ethan discovered that Lyra loved patterns, music, and repetition. She would arrange glowing blocks in perfect sequences, hum softly while tapping her fingers to the rhythm, and copy his gestures. Slowly, tiny words started appearing. First colors, then names of objects, then simple sentences. "Light," she whispered one morning, pointing to the sunbeam streaming through the deck window. Later, "Water," "Food," and even with a shy glance, "Ethan." Ethan's heart swelled every time she spoke. Each word was a victory, each hum a bridge between them. But beyond the words, Ethan noticed something remarkable. Lyra seemed to feel deeply. She reacted not just to objects, but to emotions. When Ethan was sad, she would glow soft lavender, hum quietly, and touch his hand. When he was happy, she would dance around in arcs of light, her hums rising like tiny flutes. One evening, Ethan decided to try something bold. He opened the ship's holoprojector and displayed a map of nearby planets, stars, and space stations. The colors and shapes shifted gently as the map rotated. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes wide, her hum rising in pitch. She reached out, her fingers hovering above a glowing blue planet. Ethan knelt beside her. "Do you know this place?" he asked softly. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, her skin shimmered in a pale gold, then pulsed rapidly in a pattern he didn't recognize. It was different from anything she had done before. Ethan's heart beat faster. Could she recognize it? Could she be remembering something from her past, a world she had lost? She turned to him, eyes glimmering, and whispered, "Home." Ethan's chest tightened. "Your home?" he asked. Lyra nodded slowly, a tiny tear forming at the corner of her eye. She looked at him as if asking silently, "Can you help me?" Ethan pulled her close. "We'll find a way, Lyra, I promise. But for now, this is safe. You're here, and I'm not going anywhere." That night, Lyra curled up beside him on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Her skin pulsed, faintly in soft blues and purples. She hummed a quiet tune, almost like a lullaby. Ethan watched her, amazed at how much emotion she could express without words. He realized that her sadness wasn't just sorrow. It was memory, longing, and hope all at once. Over the next few days, Ethan experimented with ways to communicate more effectively. He created a simple device that translated Lyra's light patterns into words on a screen. When she glowed soft yellow while pointing to a flower, the screen displayed happy. When she shimmered pale blue, it said sad. Slowly, they built a shared language. They could now express feelings, simple thoughts, and even some memories. Lyra's confidence grew. She began to explore more of the ship on her own, sometimes wandering into the kitchen while Ethan prepared meals. She experimented with music, plucking soft notes from an alien string instrument and humming along. Ethan noticed that her tunes seemed to reflect her emotions, happy, curious, playful, sometimes wistful. One afternoon, Ethan brought out a puzzle, an alien artifact made of glowing orbs that fit together in intricate patterns. Lyra stared at it for a long moment, then, with a soft hum, began to manipulate the orbs. To Ethan's amazement, she completed the puzzle in record time, arranging the orbs in patterns he hadn't even considered. "You're brilliant, Lyra," Ethan said, his voice full of awe. "Absolutely brilliant." Lyra's skin shimmered with a soft gold, and she whispered, almost shyly, "Thank you." It wasn't long before Ethan realized that Lyra's abilities went beyond intelligence. She had a rare sensitivity to emotions and energy. She could sense how someone felt, sometimes before they spoke. She could calm restless creatures with a touch and even heal minor scrapes or bruises with her gentle hands. It was subtle, almost magical, but undeniable. Ethan didn't show surprise. He simply smiled. "I think you're special, Lyra," he said softly. "And I think the galaxy is going to be lucky to meet you someday." Lyra tilted her head, a soft glow pulsing from her skin. She didn't understand all of his words yet, but she felt the warmth and care in his voice. She trusted him completely. Now and slowly, she was learning to trust herself. One day, as they sat on the observation deck watching a distant star cluster, Lyra reached for Ethan's hand. "I like here," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I like you." Ethan's eyes softened and he held her hand gently. "I like you too, Lyra. More than anything." It was a moment of pure connection. No words could capture the depth of it, but they both felt it. Lyra's sadness hadn't disappeared, but a spark of joy had begun to shine through. She was learning that she could be safe, that she could be loved, and that she could trust another being completely. Ethan realized that communication was more than words. It was patience, empathy, and understanding. And he knew that with time, he and Lyra could not only understand each other but also discover the hidden gifts she carried inside. As the days passed, Ethan continued to teach and learn with her. He brought books with pictures of alien creatures, music from distant planets, and simple games that involved patterns and colors. Lyra responded eagerly, her confidence growing, her hums becoming brighter, more expressive, more musical. And then one morning, as sunlight spilled across the deck, Lyra did something unexpected. She lifted her hand, and a small orb of shimmering light floated above her palm. It hovered, spinning slowly, casting tiny reflections across the walls. Ethan watched, stunned. You did that?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded, a small proud smile forming. "Light," she whispered. Ethan felt a thrill of awe. This was new. This was remarkable. This small, quiet girl, who had seemed so sad and fragile, had a gift beyond imagination, a gift that could change how beings in the galaxy saw her. He knelt beside her, holding her hand. "Lyra," he said, voice steady, "we have so much to explore. Not just space, not just the stars, but your gift, your heart, your world. And I'll be with you every step." Lyra's skin pulsed soft gold again, and she whispered, almost shyly, "Together?" "Together," Ethan said, smiling. That night, as the ship drifted silently through space, Lyra curled beside Ethan, her orb of light floating softly above her hand. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope, of belonging, of joy. And Ethan knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning. For Lyra, the quiet girl who had seemed lost, a world of communication, understanding, and discovery awaited. And for Ethan, the journey of learning, patience, and love had just begun. The stars outside twinkled like tiny promises, and somewhere in their light a bright future was waiting, for both of them. Ethan woke early one morning as usual. The ship was quiet and the stars outside glimmered like scattered diamonds. He found Lyra sitting by the observation deck window, her small hands hovering over a glowing orb of light she had made. The orb floated slowly, spinning and pulsing softly, casting tiny shadows on her face. "Good morning, Lyra," Ethan said gently, kneeling beside her. She looked up at him, her enormous eyes shimmering, and gave a faint nod. Then she smiled, a small, shy curve of her lips, but it was a smile unlike before. It held pride, joy, and a quiet power. Ethan's eyes widened. "You made it stronger?" he asked, pointing to the orb. Lyra hummed, and the light pulsed brighter. Then, to Ethan's amazement, it slowly expanded, filling the room with a soft glow. Ethan could feel it on his skin, not hot or cold, but gentle, calming. It was as if the light carried emotion itself. "You—" Ethan whispered, carefully reaching toward the orb, but Lyra stopped him with a small gesture. Her hum shifted, melodic and clear. It was almost as if she was saying, "This is mine, but you can share it." Ethan nodded, understanding. "I see. You're ready to show me more." Over the next several days, Ethan observed Lyra closely. Her gift was unlike anything he had seen before. She could create light that reflected emotions, almost like music you could see. Happiness made it golden, curiosity painted it green, and calmness shimmered in soft purple waves. But her gift didn't end there. He noticed that she could sense when someone was sad or in pain. A neighbor who came aboard the ship with a scraped hand would see Lyra's skin shift pale blue, then gently place her tiny hand on the wound and the pain would fade, leaving the neighbor amazed and smiling. It wasn't magic, it was real, extraordinary. Lyra was not just an alien child, she was a being of empathy and wonder. One afternoon, Ethan decided to test her abilities carefully. He called a few volunteers from the shelter to visit. There was a nervous little alien boy with spiky fur, a timid human girl, and a curious three-armed alien. Ethan instructed them to relax and interact naturally while he and Lyra observed. Lyra watched them silently at first, her hums low and steady. Then she raised her hand, and soft light spread from her fingertips. Each visitor's expression shifted. Fear melted into calm, sadness turned into small smiles, and hesitation gave way to laughter. The volunteers gasped in amazement. You did this?" one of them asked, pointing at Lyra. She nodded, her skin pulsing gently. Her voice, soft and melodic, whispered, "Feel better. Safe." Ethan smiled proudly. "Lyra has a gift," he said. "She can sense feelings and help with them, but she only shares it with those who are kind." The volunteers were amazed, and the news began to spread quietly among the community. Lyra, once the quietest and most withdrawn child, was slowly becoming a source of wonder and joy. But Lyra's gift was not without limits. It drained her energy. After helping the visitors, she curled up on the observation deck, her skin dimming to a soft gray. Ethan knelt beside her, gently brushing her hair back. "You did so much today," he whispered. "Rest now. It's okay." Lyra hummed softly, a sound that seemed to thank him. Ethan realized that patience would be key, not only for teaching. her butt for helping her learn to manage her gift. Days passed and Ethan introduced new exercises to help Lyra control her abilities. They used simple objects like floating orbs or holographic creatures to test how she could change the light and influence feelings. She learned quickly, shaping colors and patterns into flowing emotions. Happiness became a golden cascade of light that danced across the room. Curiosity became a sparkling green that twirled like ribbons. Calmness spread like a gentle wave of lavender. One day, Ethan decided to take a risk. "Lyra," he said softly, "I think you're ready to try. Something new, something bigger." Lyra tilted her head, her glow flickering, curious but hesitant. "There's a community gathering tomorrow," Ethan explained. "Lots of beings will be there. Humans, aliens, everyone. I want you to share your gift, if you want." Lyra's eyes widened and her skin shifted pale white, a clear sign of fear. She shrank back slightly. "It's okay," Ethan said, putting a gentle hand on hers. "You don't have to if you're not ready, but I think the world deserves to see what you can do, and I'll be with you the whole time." She looked at him, large eyes searching his face. Finally, with a small nod and a faint golden glow, she whispered, "Together?" "Together," Ethan said firmly, smiling. The next day, Ethan and Lyra arrived at the community gathering, held in a large open plaza in the heart of the interstellar city. Beings of all shapes and sizes mingled, exchanged greetings, and shared food. The scent of alien spices and human pastries mingled in the air. Music from across the galaxy played softly in the background. Lyra stayed close to Ethan, her fingers intertwined with his. She watched the crowd with wide eyes, nervous and unsure. Ethan knelt beside her. "Remember," he whispered, "you don't have to do anything you don't want. But if you do, I promise it will be wonderful." Lyra took a deep breath, and, slowly, a small orb of golden light appeared above her hand. It hovered, glowing softly, then expanded, forming a dome of shimmering light around them. The crowd gasped, stepping back, unsure but curious. Lyra's skin pulsed with golden hues, her hum rising into a delicate melody. The light she created spread outward, and something incredible happened. The feelings of those around her began to shift. Anxiety melted into calm, worry turned into curiosity, and sadness transformed into joy. Children laughed, aliens hugged each other, and even the grumpiest visitors smiled. Ethan watched in awe. Lyra's gift, once hidden and fragile, was now shining brightly for everyone to see. She was no longer the quiet, timid girl in the shelter. She was a beacon of hope, of connection, of understanding. A human girl approached her, eyes wide. You made me feel happy," she whispered. Lyra nodded, her skin glowing softly. She didn't need words to explain. Her gift spoke louder than anything else could. After the gathering, Ethan and Lyra returned to the ship. Lyra was tired, her skin dimming to soft gray again. Ethan carried her gently to her room and tucked her in. "You did something amazing, today," he said softly. "People will remember this. And you've discovered your gift. Not just the power, but the heart behind it." Lyra hummed, curling into him slightly. "Heart," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan said, brushing her hair back. "Your heart is strong, and you share it with others. That's your gift. Not just the light, not just the ability, but your heart." She thought about that for a moment, her eyes closing as she drifted to sleep. Ethan watched her, marveling at how far she had come. From the saddest alien girl in a quiet shelter to a being whose presence could inspire joy and connection across species, Lyra had grown beyond what anyone had imagined. Ethan realized something important. Lyra's journey was just beginning. Her gift was powerful, yes, but it was also delicate. She needed guidance, patience, and love, and he would provide all of it, because she was extraordinary, and she was his. As the ship floated silently through space, Ethan looked out the observation window, thinking about the future. Lyra's light could heal more than just physical wounds. It could bridge gaps between humans and aliens, unite communities, and show the galaxy that empathy, kindness, and courage were the greatest powers of all. The city plaza was alive with color, sound, and motion. It was festival day, a celebration of cultures, species, and stories from across the galaxy. Humans and aliens mingled freely, tasting foods from distant planets, listening to music with instruments shaped in ways Ethan had never imagined, and marveling at displays of floating lights, holograms, and artistic creations. Lyra clung gently to Ethan's hand as they moved through the crowd. Her enormous eyes took in every detail, the bright banners fluttering in the artificial breeze, the smells of alien spices mixing with the warmth of freshly baked bread, and the laughter of children playing tag across the plaza. Her small frame trembled slightly, not from fear but anticipation. "You're ready," Ethan whispered. "Whenever you want, just start. You don't have to stop until you want." Lyra nodded, her skin pulsing in soft lavender. Her fingers brushed his hand. "Together?" she asked. "Together," Ethan repeated, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. They reached the center of the plaza, where an open stage had been set up for performances and demonstrations. The crowd parted slightly, curious as the small blue girl stepped forward. For a moment, no one moved. A hush fell over the gathering as whispers spread. Who is she? What can she do? Lyra's hum began softly, barely audible, but it carried a strange power that made heads turn and hearts slow. Her skin glowed a soft golden color, pulsing with the rhythm of her breath. Slowly, she raised her hand, and a tiny orb of light floated above her palm, spinning gently. The light expanded, hovering higher, catching the attention of every onlooker. Ethan knelt beside her, whispering, "Remember, Lyra, share your heart. Nothing else matters." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, letting the crowd's energy wash over her. Then she opened them wide and shining, and the light above her exploded into a spectrum of colors. Soft ribbons of gold, green, purple, and blue floated above the stage, twisting and dancing like living beings. Something incredible happened. The crowd began to feel the emotions Lyra was projecting. Anxiety melted away. Children stopped crying. Aliens who were shy or withdrawn began to smile. Happiness spread like ripples on a pond, touching everyone in the plaza. Lyra's hum rose into a delicate melody, blending with the music of the festival. The lights above her twisted and twirled, reflecting joy, curiosity, and peace. Every being in the plaza felt it, not just with their minds, but with their hearts. One human boy in the front row had been clinging to his mother, scared of the strange crowd. Now he laughed, eyes wide with wonder, and began to twirl in the golden light. A three-armed alien who had been hesitant to approach anyone now stepped forward, feeling the warmth and calm that radiated from Lyra's orb. Ethan watched, amazed and proud. Lyra, once the quietest and saddest girl in the shelter, was now the center of awe. She had transformed the plaza, not with words, not with power or force, but with empathy, connection, and light. A soft murmur of amazement rippled through the crowd. "Look at her," someone whispered. "She's incredible," Lyra continued, her skin shifting colors with every emotion she projected. Golden for happiness, green for curiosity, lavender for calm. She lifted her other hand, and the lights above her multiplied, forming delicate arcs and spirals that floated over the crowd like glowing ribbons. The children reached out to touch them, laughing as the ribbons danced around their fingers, leaving trails of soft, glowing light in the air. Ethan could see it clearly now. Lyra's gift was not just about light. It was about connection, about making others feel seen, heard, and cared for. About bridging gaps that words or gestures alone could not. A small alien girl in the crowd, shy and hesitant, slowly approached the stage. She had been alone all day, scared of interacting with anyone. As she stepped closer, Lyra's light shifted, casting soft lavender and gold over her. The girl smiled tentatively, her shoulders relaxing, and for the first time that day she laughed freely. Lyra's hum changed, almost musical now, as if she was singing without words. The crowd was mesmerized. Some stood frozen in awe. Others smiled, tears forming in their eyes as they felt emotions they had long forgotten: hope, joy, and a sense of belonging. Ethan felt his chest swell. He had always known Lyra was special, but seeing her gift in action, shared openly with the world, was more than he had ever imagined. She was more than special. She was extraordinary. The performance lasted for what felt like hours, though Ethan knew it was only minutes. Lyra's energy began to fade slightly, her skin dimming to soft lavender and pale blues. She looked up at Ethan, eyes wide and a little tired. He knelt beside her immediately. "You did it," he whispered, brushing back a strand of her glowing hair. "You showed them who you are, and look at them. They love you. They understand you." Lyra let out a soft hum, leaning against him. Her hand reached for his, the last spark of light flowing from her fingertips. "Happy?" she whispered softly. "Yes," Ethan said, smiling. "Happy. And so are they. Thanks to you." People from the plaza began to approach cautiously. "Your gift, it's incredible," a human said. "You made me feel so calm and happy. I never expected that." A winged alien stepped forward. "I have traveled across many worlds, but I have never seen anything like this. You have a heart that shines, little one." Lyra's cheeks glowed softly, and she tilted her head, shy but proud. Ethan noticed that while she had shared her gift with hundreds, she had remained humble, gentle, and kind. Her heart was pure, and it radiated in every shimmer of her skin and every note of her hum. After the crowd began to disperse, Ethan and Lyra walked through the plaza together. Vendors and performers waved, offering small gifts of gratitude. Dyke. Group of children followed quietly, fascinated and smiling, eager to catch another glimpse of the glowing ribbons of light that Lyra had created. Back at the ship, Lyra curled up on the observation deck, exhausted but peaceful. Ethan sat beside her, brushing her hair back and holding her hand. "You were amazing today," he said softly. "I knew you could do it, but this was beyond anything I imagined. You didn't just show them your gift. You touched their hearts." Lyra hummed softly, a small smile forming. "Hearts. Yes," she whispered. "Like yours. My heart. Together." Ethan's eyes filled with warmth. "Yes, Lyra. Together. Always." That night, as the ship drifted silently through space, Ethan thought about what had happened. Lyra's performance had been more than just a display of talent. It had been a demonstration of humanity's greatest gift: empathy, patience, and understanding. And even though Lyra was not human, her connection with him had allowed her to express those same qualities to the galaxy. He realized something profound. Lyra's gift could change more than just a single crowd. It could inspire communities, unite species, and create understanding across worlds. But more importantly, it reminded him of why he had chosen to adopt her in the first place. It wasn't for her abilities, it was for her heart. And her heart had proven to be stronger, brighter, and more beautiful than anyone could have imagined. Lyra drifted to sleep, her hands still glowing faintly from the last remnants of her light. Ethan stayed beside her, watching the stars through the observation window. Somewhere out there, worlds waited to see her shine, and he knew that when the time came, Lyra would not be afraid. She had found her voice, her power, and her place in the universe. For now, though, she was his little blue girl, tired but happy, dreaming under the glow of distant stars. And Ethan felt a quiet certainty in his heart. No matter what came next, they would face it together, because Lyra had discovered her gift, and through it she had discovered herself. The city was quiet that morning, the sun spilling gentle light across the high towers and bustling streets below. Ethan and Lyra floated above the city in their ship, looking down at the world that had slowly begun to notice the little blue girl, with glowing skin and a heart full of empathy. Lyra sat beside him on the observation deck, her tiny hands resting on the console, fingers intertwined with Ethan's. Her large eyes sparkled as she watched the city below, and for the first time, her gaze was not sad. It was bright, curious, and full of hope. "Look at them," Ethan said softly. "All the lives you've touched, all the people you've helped." Lyra hummed softly, her skin pulsing with faint golden light. She had learned that her gift could do more than just create beautiful light. It could connect people, calm fears, and inspire joy. But she also understood something even more important. Her gift was strongest when shared with love and care. Over the weeks following the festival, Ethan and Lyra's life had changed. Word of her abilities spread slowly, carefully. Communities from across the city and beyond began to request her presence, not for spectacle, but for help. Schools wanted her to visit shy or fearful children. Neighborhoods asked her to calm tensions between different species. Even small towns on distant planets requested guidance, hoping that her light could bridge divides. Ethan worked with her gently, helping her prepare for these visits. He knew that her gift, while extraordinary, required energy and focus. They practiced together every day, creating small exercises that helped Lyra manage her abilities and understand the emotions she projected. "Remember," Ethan said one afternoon as they floated above a sleepy farming planet, "you don't have to help everyone at once. Just touch the hearts you can reach, that's enough." Lyra nodded, her skin pulsing soft lavender as she leaned against him. "Enough. Yes," she whispered. "Heart. Together." "Together," Ethan repeated. "Always." Their first official visit outside the city was to a small alien village where the local children were frightened by rumors of a mysterious predator that had never been seen. Parents worried constantly, and the children were anxious, afraid to play outside. Lyra stepped onto the village square, hands trembling slightly. Ethan knelt beside her, whispering encouragement. "Just be yourself, Lyra. Share your light, share your heart. They'll feel it." She closed her eyes and her skin began to glow softly. A single orb floated above her hand, pulsing gently, spreading warmth and calm. The children stopped playing quietly in the corners, staring in awe. Lyra's light reached them, turning fear into curiosity, fear into courage. By the time the sun began to set, the children were laughing, running, and playing games they had been too afraid to enjoy for months. The parents watched with tears, in their eyes amazed at the little girl who had brought such peace. "You," one parent said, kneeling before Lyra. "You've changed everything here. You've given us hope." Lyra's eyes sparkled and she whispered softly, "Hope, yes, together." Ethan felt his chest swell with pride. He knew that what they were doing was more than just showing off a gift. They were healing, inspiring, and teaching the galaxy a lesson humans often took for granted. Empathy and patience could be more powerful than any weapon or technology. Over the next months, Ethan and Lyra traveled across the galaxy. They visited distant colonies, floating space stations, and quiet farming planets. Each time, Lyra's gift touched lives in subtle but profound ways. She calmed arguments, helped children overcome fear, and brought joy to lonely beings. And every time, Ethan was there, supporting her, celebrating her victories, and reminding her that she was never alone. Through these travels, Lyra's confidence grew. She began speaking more often, using words, gestures, and her glowing skin to communicate complex emotions. Her hums became musical, sometimes forming patterns that could be interpreted as laughter or joy. She discovered that her gift was strongest when she felt safe, loved, and free to be herself. One quiet evening aboard the ship, as they watched a cluster of stars twinkle in the vast blackness of space, Lyra turned to Ethan. "Ethan," she whispered, "I'd like helping, happy, heart." Ethan smiled, brushing back her shimmering hair. "I know, Lyra. You've always had this inside you. You were the saddest girl once, but now, you bring joy wherever you go. Lyra's skin pulsed softly, colors flowing like a river of light. Together? Always? She asked, a hint of shyness in her voice. Together, always, Ethan said firmly. And someday, we'll help even more. The duo's travels eventually brought them to a grand interstellar council meeting. Delegates from hundreds of planets had gathered, many of them curious about the little blue girl who had become a legend. The council had invited them to demonstrate her abilities not as a spectacle, but as an example of cooperation and empathy. Standing on the council stage, Lyra's hands hovered above her head, and she let her light expand. Golden ribbons swirled, around her mingling with green, purple, and blue, forming patterns that reflected the emotions of the beings in the room. The delegates gasped in awe as fear, skepticism, and doubt melted into understanding, peace, and hope. One elder delegate whispered. This is remarkable. We have never felt such harmony before. Lyra's hum was soft and melodic, touching the hearts of every being present. Ethan watched proudly, knowing that Lyra's gift had grown, beyond what either of them had imagined. She was no longer just a child he had adopted. She was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of what empathy, love, and patience could accomplish. After the meeting, Ethan and Lyra returned to their ship. Lyra was quiet, tired but peaceful. She curled up on the observation deck, her tiny hands glowing faintly as if reflecting on all she had accomplished. You did amazing today, Ethan whispered, brushing back her hair. You've changed the hearts of hundreds, maybe thousands, and it's only the beginning. Lyra smiled faintly, her skin pulsing gold. Begin. Together, she whispered. Yes, Ethan said softly. Together. As years passed, Ethan and Lyra continued their journey. They adopted a rhythm of travel, helping communities, teaching empathy, and showing the galaxy that even the smallest beings could make a huge difference. Lyra's gift became known not as a tool or a trick, but as a symbol of hope and love, a reminder that connection mattered more than power, patience more than force. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra finally understood something she had never felt before, that she was not alone, that she was valued, and that she could make the galaxy brighter simply by being herself. One quiet night as they floated above a peaceful planet, Ethan looked down at her sleeping form. You've come so far, he whispered. From the saddest alien girl in a shelter to a light that touches the universe. Lyra stirred, her eyes opening slightly. Light, heart, together, she murmured. Yes, Ethan said softly. Always together. He knew that the universe was vast, full of challenges, but also full of beauty. And he knew that Lyra, with her gift, her courage, and her heart, would continue to inspire everyone she met. For Lyra, the journey had begun with sadness, fear, and isolation. But it ended with love, purpose, and a place in the galaxy where she was needed, cherished, and celebrated. And for Ethan, adopting that little blue girl had changed his life too. He had given her a home, yes, but she had given him something even greater. Hope, wonder, and the reminder that even in the darkest corners of the universe, light could shine. As the ship drifted silently through the stars, Ethan held Lyra's hand, and she rested her head against his shoulder. Together they watched the endless galaxies stretch before them, knowing that no matter what challenges awaited, they would face them side by side. Because the saddest alien girl had found her place in the universe, and together they were unstoppable,